If your wife has emotionally checked out and you feel like you're the only one still trying to save the marriage, one of the most painful questions men ask is this: can I actually save my marriage alone? Most people will give you one of two answers. No, it takes two people to save a marriage. Or the opposite, yes, if you just try hard enough, you can fix everything. But the truth is, both of those answers miss the real problem. So in this video, I want to give you the real honest answer to the question, can you still save your marriage alone? And more importantly, what you can actually change when the relationship feels like it's slipping away. The reason why so many men ask if they can save their marriage by themselves is usually because they feel like they're the only one still fighting for the relationship. If your wife has checked out emotionally, you may be starting to feel this way as well because you notice that you're the only one who wants to talk things through. You're the only one who's looking for solutions, and you're the one who is trying to get that connection back again. And meanwhile, she seems emotionally closed off. She's saying things like she needs some space or she just isn't happy anymore. So because of this, you start to feel really isolated. I mean, clearly, you feel like you're trying to be the one to save the relationship, and that's going to feel isolating. So you start going into a deeper problem-solving mode. You're trying to figure out what you can say to fix everything or show her how much you care so she doesn't give up on the relationship for good. The problem is when you're in that mindset, you're really mainly focused on trying to change her feelings directly. You're trying to push the relationship back to where it used to be. And when that doesn't work, it creates an incredibly frustrating situation because you might feel like you're the only one trying to make an effort. You might feel like you are carrying the emotional weight of the relationship. And that's where the question comes from. If she's not trying, can I actually save this on my own? So to truly answer that, we need to talk about something that most people misunderstand about relationships. This is a reality that is very difficult for a lot of men to accept, and why so often we do all the wrong things to save the relationship that actually pushes her further away. There are so many things in life that you cannot control. You cannot control another person's emotions. You cannot control whether someone decides to stay in a relationship, and you cannot force someone to feel attraction, love, and connection. Those things have to exist naturally. But where many people get confused is that they take the truth that you cannot control what others do and then jump to the conclusion that nothing that they do actually matters. That's not true either, because while you cannot control her emotions, you do have an influence over the environment of the relationship emotionally. Think about it this way. Every relationship has a certain emotional atmosphere. Sometimes that atmosphere feels calm and safe, and other times it feels tense or heavy. The atmosphere in your relationship didn't appear overnight. It's formed from patterns over time. The patterns start to form in how conflict is handled, and how the communication is, and importantly, how each person shows up emotionally. Specifically, a big part of it is how you are either showing up or not showing up as the masculine leader. When that atmosphere changes over time because of these patterns that are forming, the relationship dynamic completely changes with it. And this is where one person can actually make a much bigger impact on the relationship than most people realize. The problem for most men when she gets to this point where she is feeling the emotional disconnect is that they start having such a huge negative impact on the future chances of the relationship because of the way they react. So for your case, you start to respond in a way that feels natural and quite frankly, understandable given the stakes that are on the line, but it's almost always counterproductive. This is what I was mentioning earlier about trying to explain yourself more, trying to prove that you care, basically trying to change her feelings. So ironically, these very things that we do so often as men to try and save the relationship just make the situation feel heavier for her, creating even more emotional separation. And once that pattern starts, the relationship dynamic can spiral out of control very quickly. This is why the solution is simply not to just try harder. The solution is to change how you show up emotionally in the relationship. This is what leads us to the things we can actually control. And this part is very empowering. We know that you cannot control her choices. However, you can absolutely change the way you show up in the relationship. Understanding this, and better yet, applying this, will have the greatest impact on your reconciliation chances and your overall quality of life. You are in complete control and can change how you respond when things are tense. You can change how you handle emotional moments and whether you react from a place of anxiety or from groundedness. You can change whether you approach the relationship and where it stands currently from a place of fear or from a place of self-respect. All of these shifts play a massive role in what happens next because emotional dynamics in the relationship are incredibly responsive to energy and behavior. So when you start to become calmer, when you start to be more grounded, this is a key starting point to the entire tone of your interaction with her, because your conversations are going to start to become less reactive. It's going to allow her to have pressure decrease a bit, and everything can start to feel lighter again on her side. This doesn't automatically mean, okay, great, I can just be calm and the relationship will be saved. It takes more than that, including implementing leadership in your communication and your daily presence. However, this is the starting point, which will allow her to feel an emotional environment that doesn't feel overwhelming. That alone is half the battle to stop the previous patterns that were making the relationship take this dark path in the first place. So when that question, can I save my marriage alone, gets asked, we know that the real question or goal underneath it all as men, since we're panicking, is how do I make her stay? And that is the wrong goal, because it leads to behaviors that undermine your own strength. Because when everything you do is focused on that goal from keeping her from leaving, you start operating from this most useless place called fear. That is what makes you start chasing reassurance from her and abandoning your own emotional stability. These are the behaviors that start to happen when you're so focused on the goal of how can I make her stay, and it is these exact behaviors that erode her attraction and respect further, to the point where reconciliation becomes impossible if you do this over a long period of time. The healthier goal is different. The real goal, the most important thing you can do to save your marriage by yourself, is to become a man who remains grounded and self-respecting regardless of what happens. I get it. It sounds completely counterintuitive, but you have to completely detach yourself from that outcome of I have to get her to stay and I have to save this relationship, because your goal has to be building up your masculine leadership ability and really understanding how her emotions operate. When you do this, it makes everything so much easier, because you start to realize what we were talking about earlier. You can only control what you can control. This includes being a man who doesn't collapse under pressure and leading yourself well. And in doing so, you're creating a strong emotional environment. The reason why I said this is the real goal, and again, counterintuitive, is because when you start to make those changes, it is the big reason why the relationship can start to go towards the path of reconciliation and become healthier again. Sort of like the old proverb, a watch pot never boils. When you focus on changing how you show up in the relationship, which is your pot, instead of focusing on how you can get that pot boiling again, that is when you start doing the right things that will help change the relationship. And if you want to learn more on how to do this, I recommend watching my video called How to Save Your Marriage When You're the Only One Trying. So if you're in a situation right now where everything feels like it's slipping away fast and you've been asking the question, if you can save everything by yourself, quite frankly, the answer to that is yes, and it is the very best place to start the path of turning everything around. If you're serious about making these changes, I put together a free training that goes much deeper into this approach. I invite you to go watch that free training. It's my Relationship Rebuild Masterclass, where I break down the step-by-step framework that I use to help men save their marriage or long-term relationship the fastest way possible by rebuilding emotional connection, restoring respect, and leading the relationship dynamic to a healthy direction. You can watch that free masterclass by clicking the link in the description or pinned comment below. If this video gave you some clarity and a path forward, let me know in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you in another episode real soon.